Hello plant friends, my name is Victoria and you're watching Plantastix. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Victoria. I'm a lawyer and a prior law student, and I got into houseplants as kind of like a hobby to just not be in the books all the time. And right now I am 3 weeks out from taking the July bar exam. So wish me luck in the comments. And the video that I'm making right now is going to be going over all the anthuriums I have. So let's get started. Okay, so this thing doesn't look real, but I promise you it is. I've posted photos and people have claimed that it's a green screen, but I promise you it's very real. So just to go over the lights, because I'm sure that people are going to have questions. So these are actually a lot closer typically, but since I'm showing you everything, they're further away. So I have two Barrina standing lights, and it's really nice because you can just stand them up. They're really nice, they don't fall over, and they provide a ton of light. So if you have something like anthuriums where they kind of like to face one way, it's perfect. Up top, you're gonna notice that I have 3 additional lights, and on either side are Barrina lights, and then right here in the middle is the GE Par 38. Like, the GE Par 38 is a really strong light, so you can see here, this one light keeps all of these plants happy. Okay, so the wall is not actually attached to my actual wall because people ask about that. It's its own freestanding thing. It's got wheels, it's quite heavy, and it took a while to create. I made it from scratch. I was just doodling in my construction law class and made a blueprint for it, and then made it as a gift to myself over winter break. So all but 3 were grown from seed, and I'll tell you which 3 those are. So this one was purchased as a mature plant, this one was, and then this one was too. The rest are all grown from seed, or were seedlings, or were grown from chunks. So that way I was able to kind of keep prices down, because anthuriums are coming down in price, but at the time they were very, very expensive. So I'm going to start from the top and kind of work my way left to right, and then do the same throughout the rest of the wall. So here is my regale, and it is very pretty. It has great potential. Right now it's not show worthy, but I still have it up here. So we have a new leaf coming out here, and this one was grown from a chunk. Next up here, this beautiful one right here is a Bessae, and since I've had it, I got it May 10th for graduation, and it's put out that big leaf. I don't like ugly leaves, so whenever there's a pretty new leaf, I cut off the old one. It doesn't matter if it's yellowing or not. This one, I'm gonna wait, but that's just pretty much what I do. This is an Anthiurium Clarinarvium. These are very cute, and they were really the most popular anthurium whenever I was first seeing them. They grow incredibly slow. Just to give you an idea of how slow they grow, this one I got at the same time as this one, and this one was a seedling. They were the same size, and look how just different the outcomes are. So this one up here literally looks like a rib cage, and it is a Ville. I'm not going to say the full name because I'm going to say it wrong. Next we have Block Zara, and I grew this one from seed. It was like 40 bucks. It took me 2 years for it to get that size. So that's all the anthuriums at the top. So now if we go to the right, we have this one here. So I actually purchased the Anthurium Regale, and they accidentally sent me this instead of the Regale, and then they later sent me the Regale. They called it an Anthurium Medusa. It has a really textured leaf. The actual name starts with a C, so when you type in Medusa, you really don't get anything. And this one is a terrestrial anthurium actually, but I still have it in moss. And if you see here, it's just crazy. It's really crazy. So you can see it's getting a new leaf there, and it's a really happy plant. It's really unusual, and it's perfectly placed right here and just kind of tucked in because it kind of pushes out from all the other greenery there. So going across and down. So this one right here, my best friend got me. It is an Anthurium Silver Blush. I'm going to talk about the differences between the Silver Blush and its more expensive look-alike. Here is a Pure Luxurians, and I've heard that they grow very slowly. Since I've had it, it has grown slower than the other two more mature Anthuriums. That one's put out a new leaf, and that one has too, if you see. It is putting out a new leaf. It's just going a little bit slower than I guess some people would like, but it's not as slow as a Clarinarvium for me. Okay, so now we go to my first Anthurium I had really great success with, which is this one here, which is an Anthurium's Radicans Luxurians. So it's half Luxurians and half Radicans. So it has these beautiful textured leaves, but if you're ever unsure if you have a Radicans Lux hybrid or a Lux, you can see that the leaves are much more elongated than on the Lux. The Lux has these perfect heart-shaped leaves, and the Radicans Lux are kind of just like you took a heart and you kind of stretched it out. So this one blooms all the time for me, and I took some pollen and I froze it, and I've attempted to pollinate this one here. It's an inflow. This one constantly blooms for me, so you can see, hopefully you can see, there's a inflow forming, and then I've also got a new leaf. But yeah, if you want a really great beginner Anthurium, I recommend getting a Radicans Luxurians hybrid. So here is my Warraquenum, and she was a chunk. It was like this huge chunk. It was like the size of a large carrot. And what I did was I cut it up into 3 pieces. I gave one to my friend, and then I kept 2. And this is the one that has done the best. So it does grow kind of slow, and I don't have a humidifier. I actually, just because I know people will ask, this is the average in this room, ambient. So it stays between 76 and 46% humidity. It's currently 56%, and we're at nearly 71 degrees. So that just gives you an idea. This one did struggle. Now, the larger your Anthurium is, sometimes you can acclimate it slowly to the humidity of ambient air and it work out. But I found that if you have seedlings or chunks, that's the greatest way for you to have success. Next are my seedlings. So I have 3 seedlings that I've been growing. I actually had 5 or 6, but with seedlings you have a really high turnover. A lot of them are not going to make it. So I purchased these kind of cheaply because they didn't know what the other half is. So here I have a Forgettii, and they just crossed it with some inflow that had pollen. And then here is a Bessae, and they don't know what it's crossed with. But just look how beautiful that those are. This one is going to be very, very pretty. I mean, if it's half Bessae, you already know it's going to be a winner. So next is one of my most beautiful Anthuriums. It is a Doc Block F2, and it is a cross between a Magnificum and one of the Doc Block hybrids. And I've seen other people with the exact same Anthurium. I purchased mine from a store in New Orleans whose name escapes me right now, but I purchased it there as a teeny tiny seedling about that size, and it has since grown into this beautiful Anthurium. And here's its newest leaf. It's hardening off, and since it's been on the wall, it's put out 3 new leaves. But like I said, I like to, you know, kind of cut off the uglier leaves. So this one is probably next. After it puts out another new leaf, I'll cut that one. But you can kind of see the roots. And yes, this one is in a bag. Some of them are in bags and some of them are in pots. And that's a discussion for another time. So next is my Silver Peru. And this one is honestly not doing as great as the rest of my Anthuriums. So you can see the rest are just a picture of health. Okay, we don't have crispy edges. You know, we've got beauty. But Sometimes the chunks and the seedlings, they do have a way of throwing a little bit of a fit. Now this one has been growing from a chunk, and it is putting out a lot of new roots, but nowhere near like that Medusa up there. It literally looks like noodle soup. But I have hope in it. Maybe if we just, you know, think positive thoughts, it'll come through for me. But yeah, I purchased that one as a chunk. And I don't spend more than $50 per plant. So, I mean, I like to try to get seedlings or chunks for like around $30. That's still a lot, but I don't go out buying $1,000 anthuriums. So this one's a unique one. It's a Crystal Lux Anthurium crossed with an Antiqua crystallinum. So the person I purchased the seed from said that NSE Tropicals has a crystallinum anthurium called Antiqua, which was kind of nice because when I typed in Antiqua before reaching out to her, I had no idea because there were tons of botanical gardens and some different articles about Antiqua only anthurium, not an Antiqua crystallinum, and it looked kind of weird. So it's got a bit of damage because I repotted it whenever it had a baby leaf. So if you touch these leaves, or you know, these small, like they're hardening off. This one is too. If you touch them when they're delicate, they're super vulnerable, and even if they are not touched, sometimes they can turn out kind of marred and disfigured. So they're very delicate. Don't touch them, even though they're like so soft. So the next one is an offshoot from this one here. So this one actually has another offshoot forming, but since this one was such a vigorous grower, I gave it its own pot. I mean, and just look at the roots. Like, they're crazy. So this one is going to be a very beautiful Forgettii. It is Forgettii dark form crossed with SKG silver, so I'm very excited to have that one in my collection. And I purchased it as a seed. It was actually a bundle. They gave me 2 Forgettii SKG silver seeds, and they also gave me a really rare Anthurium, but it didn't make it. It was like an added bonus. Okay, so this one here is on the wall for this video, but it actually lives in a glass jar. This is a Indonesian form Papi, which I think is called a Papililaminum. Not really sure. If something is something I'm not sure of saying, I like to shorten it because I just don't know how to say these things. I could probably figure it out, but I'm here to tell you how to grow, not pronounce things. So you can see that the roots are doing really well. So when I had it on the wall, it was not doing well. Sometimes things need a little bit more TLC before they're ready for the wall, and this is one of those. So I had 2 leaves that kind of look like this one to the left here. So I took it and put it into my office because sometimes it will throw a fit and then the next leaf looks normal, but this one wasn't. So this one's just out here for the video, but it's gonna go back into its little enclosure. So here is another Anthurium, and this is the Wendlingeri, and it's got the strap-like leaves like a Vittarfolium, which I do have. It's coming up next. So it's unique because its inflow is kind of like a corkscrew or a pig's tail, and you can see here that it probably needs to be under a cloche, so I'm probably going to take it now that I've actually noticed it. Some of the plants down here at the bottom just don't get as much attention because they're not at eye level. So whenever I take this one back into my office, I'll probably take this one too and give it some more TLC. And then this one is that SKG silver with a dark Forgettii, like you've already seen. And yeah, it did get a little bit of water in this new leaf and it rotted and died. So honestly, the offshoot is in better health and has greater promise than the actual mother plant it came from. Okay, next is a real treat. So if you can see here, I've got a Vittarfolium or two in this pot, and this is an orchid pot. And as you notice, I do have some very beautiful orchids, and I'll show you those at the end. I'll just kind of show you the flowers because I'm sure you're here for anthuriums. So this is the beauty of growing anthuriums from seed. I had no idea that Vittarfoliums are kind of more likely than some of the other anthuriums to just throw out variegation. So I had 3 seeds, and when they got to about the size of that Wendy there, I sold them on Reddit. And what happened was one of my buyers sent me a message a month later and was like, OMG, I had no idea you were selling a sport variegated Vittarfolium. Thank you so much. This was such a great deal. I didn't know that I was selling a sport Vittarfolium, so I kind of looked closer at the seedlings that I had because they were in the propagation room, and it put out this leaf, and now it's putting out these. So the variegation isn't the greatest you've ever seen, but I mean, for 3 seeds for like 30 bucks, like I think it's pretty great to have a variegated seedling. So I have it in here with its sister plant because they're from the same batch, and you can see that this one doesn't have variegation, but if you use your imagination, you can kind of see a few spots potentially. So this one is really nice. So if you want something that's going to kind of trail down and just look a little different, this is a really great one. That one is too. These are more readily available because the pricing has kind of bottomed out, I guess, if that makes sense, because those are still kind of popular and people are still seeking them, so they're a little bit more pricey. But basically, once you have a bunch of seeds being sold, and you know, this one is actually probably 4 different plants if we look here. So you can see, like, I could technically, I'm casting a shadow, but this one could be divided and this one isn't ready to be divided, but they kind of clump for me. Vittarfoliums do. So that's my wall. Those are all my anthuriums. Now I'm going to just briefly tell you about the orchids that do well on this wall. So not everything does well here. Some things are kind of just trial and error. Like some of my Rex begonias have done really well. I mean, look at this one. It is giving the scene emo from the early 2000s. And then this one's doing really well. I don't know their names. This one wasn't, and now it's bouncing back. So you can kind of see not everybody's made out for the wall. Cane begonias love it. They do very well. Which is ironic because you'd think one genus, all of the genus would do well, but anyways. So these are my Miltoniopsis orchids, and they're not like the Phalaenopsis because they need significantly more light. Something that I heard on a show, it was like the Summer Rain Oaks, and she was doing an orchid greenhouse tour with someone that was like a 2nd generation orchid grower, and he said the more wide the leaves are, the less light they need. That's why a Phalaenopsis will need less light than this here, like a Miltoniopsis. So these are going to need more light. People like to group orchids together as all needing the same amount of light, and that's just not true. So I love orchids. Specifically, I love fragrant orchids because I didn't even know orchids could be fragrant. So here I have Ethel, and she was on my desk and I knocked her over twice, so that's why she's here now. And you can kind of see there's a little bit of damage on that in here, but this one is not damaged. Let's see if we can see it. It's just beautiful. So you can smell this one all the time, and it's just an amazing smell. It's very sweet. It smells kind of like Chanel, one of those perfumes that kind of has some tuberose in it. Here is Miltoniopsis Sunglow Amazing, and it's beautiful. Now I have a ton of blooms forming, so I have God knows how many spikes on here. Last time I looked, I saw 3, because there's the 3rd one I found, and then there's another one back there. You can kind of see it. And I also have a bunch over here. So they smell amazing because I get fragrant Miltoniopsis hybrids and varieties. Now, not all of them are blooming. Some of them are storing up. So you can see that I don't have a ton of accordion leaves, and that's because I've been trying my best to be consistent, because they do tell you this is an orchid that will show you signs when it's not getting what it needs. And I really want them to become super popular because I have had great success with them. They bloom for me twice a year. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching. As you can see, you don't have to buy super expensive anthuriums to have a really great collection. If you are on a budget, law school, or just normal, you can get chunks and seeds and you can grow them. Now, it's going to take a year or 2. You will learn more from growing chunks and seeds than you will just buying these picture perfect out the box anthuriums. And they acclimate better to your conditions. Like I said, I don't have any kind of a humidifier running in my house. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Which anthurium is your favorite and which ones are on your wish list? Comment that down below. Be sure to like and subscribe and turn on that bell notification so you don't miss any of my videos. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you next time. Goodbye.